Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Have you ever felt like you wanted to get help for your social anxiety, but the thought of signing up and giving away your personal information just felt too intimidating? Well, you are definitely not alone. Many people worry about privacy when it comes to online health tools. This new study dives deep into a really interesting question. Can we get real help for social anxiety from an online program without giving up our personal data? And does it still work just as well? Think about social anxiety disorder, or SAD. It is super common, and it can make everyday social situations feel like a huge ordeal, right? Because of that fear of being judged, a lot of people with SAD actually avoid seeking traditional face-to-face therapy. That is where internet-based interventions come in. They can be a game changer, making treatments like cognitive behavioral therapy much more accessible. You can use them on your own time, from the comfort of your own home. But here is the catch. Even though these online tools are great, many people are hesitant to use them because they're worried about their privacy and data security. This study wanted to see if creating a totally anonymous version of an online self-help program for social anxiety, one where you don't have to log in or give any personal info, would make a difference in how well it works compared to a regular version that does collect data. So how did they do it? They got 452 adults who were struggling with social anxiety. Now, this is where it gets clever. They used something called a partially randomized patient preference trial. This means some people were randomly assigned to either the anonymous online program or the non-anonymous one. But for others, they got to choose which version they wanted based on their own preference. This is a really smart way to study not just if the anonymous version works, but also if getting what you want affects how well the treatment works. Both programs were based on Journey, an online self-help program that is already shown to be effective for social anxiety. It uses cognitive behavioral therapy techniques like learning about social anxiety, changing negative thoughts, training your attention to focus outward, and doing real-life exposure exercises. The big difference was how you interacted with it. So in the anonymous version, you just accessed it without a login. And any exercises where you'd normally write things down were just downloaded as a PDF to save on your own computer. With the non-anonymous version, you had to create an account, so your progress and your written thoughts were saved and could be looked at later by the researchers. They measured social anxiety symptoms before, right after the 8-week program. And then again 24 weeks later. Okay, so what did they find? The big news is that both versions of the program worked really well. People who used the anonymous program and people who used the non-anonymous program both saw significant improvements in their social anxiety symptoms. The effect sizes, which basically tell us how big the changes were what scientists call medium to large. And here is the crucial part. The anonymous version wasn't worse than the non-anonymous one. In fact, the researchers found no significant difference in how effective they were, whether people were randomly assigned or chose their program. This is huge. It basically means that being anonymous didn't hurt the treatment's effectiveness. It wasn't just social anxiety that got better. Participants also reported fewer depressive symptoms, improved quality of life, and even felt less internalized stigma, which is that feeling of shame or embarrassment about having a mental health condition. These positive effects generally lasted for at least 6 months. Now, let's get to the so what? The main takeaway from this study is that an anonymous internet-based self-help program for social anxiety can be just as effective as one that collects personal data. This is super important because privacy concerns are a major roadblock for people wanting to use these kinds of digital mental health tools. If we can offer effective treatments with strong privacy protections, it can help more people get the support they need. The researchers actually found something a bit surprising when it came to preferences. You might think most people would prefer the anonymous version to protect their privacy, right? But in this study, most participants actually preferred the non-anonymous version. Why might that be? The study suggests a few ideas. Maybe the perceived benefits of the non-anonymous version, like the ability to easily save your journal entries directly in the program instead of dealing with separate PDF files, outweighed the privacy concerns for many. Also, because this was a study run by a university. Participants might have already trusted the institution, making privacy less of a worry. They also didn't find that getting your preferred version made a big difference in how well you did in the treatment. Now, it is important to remember that every study has its limits. In this case, a good chunk of participants didn't complete all the follow-up questionnaires, meaning the researchers had to estimate some of the data. They also relied solely on self-report measures, meaning people told them how they were feeling, which isn't always perfectly accurate. And some of the analysis looking at preferences and how preference-influenced outcomes were exploratory and needed more statistical backing to be truly conclusive. But what is great about this study is its strengths. The fact that they used that patient preference design allowed them to investigate different angles. The core design, comparing an anonymous to a non-anonymous version with identical content, is also a big plus, helping to isolate the effect of anonymity itself. And they had a pretty decent number of participants, which is always good for research. So, what does all this mean for us in the real world? Well, it is really encouraging news for online mental health. It shows that we can develop and offer effective treatments that prioritize privacy. This could make it easier for people who are hesitant to seek help due to stigma or privacy worries to actually get the support they need. It basically supports the idea of privacy by design, building in protections right from the start. It also suggests that simpler program designs, like using basic PDF downloads for exercises instead of complex account systems, can still be very effective. This could lead to less technical complexity and potentially make it easier to comply with data protection rules. Even though most people in this study preferred the non-anonymous version, the fact that the anonymous one worked just as well is key. It means this option is definitely there for those who do prioritize anonymity. Future studies could explore why people prefer one over the other, and if these preferences matter more in different contexts or for different people. In conclusion, this research gives us pretty solid evidence that you don't have to sacrifice effectiveness for privacy when it comes to online mental health interventions for social anxiety. It is a great step forward in making sure these valuable tools can reach more people. What are your thoughts on this? Have you ever avoided using an online tool because of privacy concerns? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.